What's going on, guys? Will Sherlin again with Gutter Fighting Secrets Tactical Podcast. This is going to be Tactical Podcast number 9. Today, we've got a really special guest coming on. I've been really excited to talk with this guy, Taylor Kennedy. Taylor Kennedy is coming on from Kennedy Tactical Concepts. And Taylor, I'm right about that. Kennedy Tactical Concepts, correct?
Yeah, Kennedy Tactical Concepts online. Even though the T in TJ does stand for Taylor, I typically do go by TJ, so people could refer to me that way.
Perfect. I keep wanting to call you Tim Kennedy, to be honest with you, but I'm going to try to shy away from that. So, Taylor has a really interesting resume, guys. He has been in executive protection for a number of years, which I always like having a guy come on and talk to that's got similar experience. In addition to his executive protection career, he has also been doing on-site security management, things like that. He's kind of run the gamut, to be honest. I'm looking at his resume right now, and he's kind of got the whole spiel when it comes to security. He's got a security resume up the wazoo here. Now, Taylor, you've also... in addition to working security, you've taught security kind of outside of the country, correct? Outside of Canada?
Teaching security outside of Canada, no. I have taught the defensive tactics and use of force tactics outside of Canada, so the physical component, yes. And then have done security work myself as well outside of Canada, in Mexico. But as far as teaching security outside of the country, no.
Okay, so that's what I was looking at here. Defensive tactics instructor, defensive tactics in the UK, Ireland, and you've also worked in China teaching English as a second language.
That's right. Yeah, that was kind of my first foray outside of, in a teaching capacity outside of the country. Was teaching English as a second language to 3, 4, and 5-year-olds at a kindergarten in Southeast China, and a little bit of time spent in Hong Kong doing the same with kind of high school and adult groups as well. That's
pretty cool, man. How was living in China? What was it like?
It was pretty surreal. I loved it at the time. A whole new culture, a whole new experience. I really enjoyed trying to learn the language, and there's such a rich history over there. So it was a really enjoyable time over there as well. And the kindergarten we were teaching at when I was there, we billeted with the families of the students. So, at every night we go home with the families and stay in their home. And it was just such a eye-opening experience. A lot of value in that for sure.
Yeah, I bet. And there must have been some stuff that you can take away from that experience as far as, travel safety, security as well, just from living in China kind of as an expat there.
For sure.
Yeah. Now, I'm also seeing this PPCT, threat pattern recognition, human factor research. And so what is this exactly, the threat pattern recognition?
Well, essentially, it's the exact company that did PPCT, but they changed their name while we're on the topic of changing names. They changed their name from PPCT now to Human Factor Research Group and Threat Pattern Recognition, but essentially it is the same, more or less the same content, the same group, and it is, when I say it's a standard, it's certainly one of the most well-known use of force programs that we have over here in the security industry. I don't know if it's the same where you are, but here in Ontario, Canada, they're pretty big.
Okay, that's interesting, and I would assume that that's kind of force continuum type stuff.
Yeah, physical use of force, a little bit of understanding of force continuum, cuffing, baton,
gotcha.
Expandable baton techniques, stuff like that, yeah.
Okay. Now, I'm also seeing that you're a Commando Krav Maga instructor.
I used to be. That was, so there's a story there. We can camp there for a minute if you'd like.
Yeah, I'd love to hear more about that.
Yeah, I started as a Krav Maga instructor, actually, with Krav Maga Worldwide out of Los Angeles. I did my instructor certification, the Phase A instructor certification in Philadelphia in 2005, and came back to Canada, and I was teaching that and for several years. And then in 2008, I was looking at pursuing some schooling out of country, and it was in a location in South Africa, actually, and I didn't end up going, but when I was looking there, I noticed there wasn't any at the time certified Krav Maga worldwide schools, and in order to maintain your teaching certificate and your instructor credentials, you had to be attached to essentially a franchise. And since there wasn't one there, if I went, I would have forfeited my qualifications. So I started to look through other Krav Maga organizations that didn't have that requirement, where the certificate traveled with you and technically not the school you're with. And I found Commando Krav Maga, not knowing anything more about it other than essentially the name, that they're holding a course really close, and the marketing was really good. And then I went down to the course, did the course, and I was happy because it traveled with me. But things evolved from there. But yeah. I spent maybe a year and a half kind of invested in the Commando Krav Maga before I decided to branch out on my own and try to do my own thing.
Now, you, after taking that Commando Krav Maga course, and you mentioned that a year later or so, you started branching out and doing your own thing. Now, tell us a little bit about that.
Sure. So, not to pick on the organization, like I understand it's a business. However, I didn't have the clientele. Maybe I wasn't as good a businessman as I thought I was. And every year you have to re-up your certification, and it's just shy of $2,000, right? Mm-hmm. So I mean, here in Ontario, our liability insurance is about $2,500, $3,500 a year. So you're looking at like $250 a month or so if you break it up into installments. And then you have all the equipment that you have to buy. You have to pay rent on a place, and then at the end of your year, you have to pay another $2,000 to recertify. Mm-hmm. Otherwise, you lose your qualification. So it's really it was just really tough. And I was sitting with another instructor, a friend of mine, and we were both kind of at that place, and had decided that at the end of the day, with all the stuff that we've learned and the experiences we had, could probably go out and do our own thing, and rather than pay all that money just to recertify every year, because I wasn't really getting the return on investment business wise. So that's kind of where I started with it, and ventured off into something I called at the time hybrid fighting method, where I basically made a Frankenstein of techniques from Krav Maga and with the combat sports I had at the time, like Muay Thai and boxing, and kind of stitched together a patchwork system. But then through the years of experience and training, I whittled that down to basically probably like 20-30% of what it was, and it's a lot more cohesive now. But that was kind of the issue back then, was just being able to afford to stay certified. So I started to look at some other options. And I thought, well, why not? I could still train with other people, still learn other things, still rub shoulders. But why can't I just go out and do my own thing?
I really like what you said there, as far as you understand that it's a business and everything. But I know, having been through a Krav instructor level A course myself, it does take quite a bit of resources, let's say, to go back and get the damn thing and then recertify and everything. Plus, like you were saying, from what I hear, owning your own martial arts studio is really, it's such an investment. You were saying the rent, everything, the gear. I've never done it myself, but I don't know if I even would, to be honest. It's just such an investment. So the fact that you branched off and said, screw this, I'm going to do my own thing, save myself a little bit of money, and be able to put my own flavor into it as well, is really cool, man. How long have you been doing that since you started? You said that you made a Frankenstein hybrid method, and then you've kind of whittled it down over the years. How long has it been exactly?
It's been about a decade. I started that, so that was that Commando Krav Maga course, if I remember correctly, was 2008. I think in 2009, early 2010 is when I officially started the branding as hybrid fighting method. And then it actually wasn't until 2016 my cousin had died, and he was just one of my personal heroes. And I wasn't really in a good place after that, but it really made me look at my life and reevaluate what I was doing with it and where I wanted to go with it and what I wanted to do with my business and everything. And I just decided to go for that rebrand there, take a little bit of a different turn and run with it. Before he died, he was in Haiti and in Dominican Republic, building homes for people down there and getting resources down there for disaster relief. And he had built a school down there, just basically with no like machinery, no running water, just with volunteers and local tradesmen and fucking literally like human chaining buckets of water up the hill to like mix concrete. Built a school that now educates and feeds about 250 people, and it's the first school in that area. And when just before he died, he started to catch a real passion for a problem down there in Haiti, which was human trafficking. And so, with that as well, I decided to take my business now and to try and use it in whatever way I can to help fight that as well. So it was really kind of the most recent transition was more of an inspiration from him, I think.
I'm seeing that here in your CV, that you are really actually quite active as far as the volunteer experience goes. You have quite a lot of things here. Direct service volunteer, team project manager, Yellowhead, youth center. How important to you is it to work with the youth? And with that story being said, can you give us a little bit more detail of how you work with these kids and maybe even what it gives you kind of in return to guide the youth in such a way?
Yeah, to be 100% honest with you, my involvement at the Yellowhead Youth Center was, I would say, minimal. Basically, it was when I was in college, and we'd go there, and there it was maximum security youth facility. So, we'd go for like an hour, 2 hours. We'd do some games. We'd do some like drama performances and stuff like this. And some of the kids wanted to be there, but some of the kids just wanted to not be in their room, basically. So it was real mixed. But it is important to me to help be there for the youth in whatever way I can. Right now, I have 2 kids and one on the way. And for me right now, it's about being there for them, because I think a solid male role model and that father figure that's missing a lot in today's homes. And I think that causes, or it's a contributing cause to a lot of problems. So if I can, if I can be there in that way for anybody, I'll do it.
Bro, you're so right about that too. I really do think it is kind of almost a warrior responsibility to be there and help guide the youth in any way that we're able to. It definitely is a big problem these days. Kids, they lack discipline, so to speak, and to give them a little bit of that, whether it's through martial arts or even through other means, it's a respectable thing. So I give you props on that.
Yeah, they lack discipline and they lack love, right? And they lack positive direction. They have, they lack a lot of things, and it's really unfortunate. So it really forces me to look back and inward at my home, and really trying to be the best, the best loving, and just it's an interesting line to try and walk, of being a disciplinarian and being the loving father as well. We're just trying to walk that line all the time. It's quite a balancing act.
Yeah, and you bring up the factor of love, and I think that us in the martial arts, whether we're teaching or learning it or whatever, we really don't pay too much attention to the other side of it. We spend a lot of theory and headspace on the combatives aspect of it, but we don't really look at the other side of it, which is kind of a spiritual enlightenment or a spiritual direction that we try to walk as individuals, each martial artist, I think. And, the sense that whenever I get to meet a martial artist with the sense of that kind of spiritual aspect, as well as the kick-ass, bravado, it really does make me hopeful for kind of the future of things, if you know what I mean. It really is, it's an admirable thing, and it also is something that's lacking a lot in the martial arts, MMA, combatives community.
Yeah, that, and when you're just on the resume there talking about direct service volunteer, and that was with a police department, right? So I was at the victim services branch, and so when there was a crime committed, or a dead body somewhere, or someone got mugged, or whatever happened, any sort of crime, if the police thought that person needed someone to talk to or needed helping hand, we get called and we have to go on site. And you got to see people at their worst. Their child just died. Their son just drove a car off of the escarpment to try to commit suicide and lived, and now he's in the hospital, and now you're showing up. Or there's been a car accident, and parents are coming to identify the body of their teenage son. Or so, you just get to see people at their worst, and it gives you a great degree of empathy. When you're out there being in security or law enforcement, capacity and you're dealing with people that are, not responding that greatly to you, you can take a step back and remember that, maybe they're one of those people that are going through one of those times, or there's a reason for this. You don't have to take anything personally, but
Yeah.
at the end of the day, you still have to be the one that goes home to your family. So there's the combatives aspect to it as well. But, I think, doing some sort of volunteer experience like that, putting yourselves in contact with people at the worst, I think would do a lot for empathy.
Yeah, I fully agree. It is the human factor, and we're all humans. So
Yeah.
you were doing that for how long exactly, and or are you still doing it?
No, I did that for a year. It was pretty intense year, but I did that for a year.
That's got to take a toll on you, man.
Yeah, I was in my early 20s when I did that. I think I was mid 20s, by 24, 25. I would love to do that again because I think it was a wonderful experience. I fear that my responsibilities now, with everything I'm carrying, I wouldn't be able to commit the time needed for it. But I do recommend it for anybody that has the ability to do that. It's really an eye-opening experience.
It sounds like it. Now, was that before or during you were working in executive protection security industry?
Executive protection I've only been doing for the last year and a half to 2 years, like outside of an occasional detail here and there. I've been doing it full time for the last year and a half. Excuse me. And before that, again, kind of in security management. So that was way before. That was probably just when I got started in security, within the first 1 or 2 years of actually getting started as a security guard even.
What drew you to the security field?
Well, it's a funny story. At first, I was actually working, I was teaching English, as I said, in China. And when I came back to Canada, I was working in daycare, actually. I was working in daycares, taking care of 3, 4, and 5-year-olds. And I had a job shift, or I wanted to kind of shift direction. And I hadn't completed my degree, right? So I was like, okay, I need to shift direction here. I need to find some work. I need to do something that really is not going to look at my qualifications too much. I just want to make some money. And at the time, security, you could just work a security guard job without really much experience or anything. So I kind of jumped into it thinking that I didn't really need anything to do it. And picked up a job and just started working security. And then several years later, I decided that I got into the bouncing aspect of it, and then several years later, I was trying to get out of security, and but was in need of some work, and I was asked, because of my at that time length of time working security, would you do the security for the opening of our restaurant? And so I got my license again and started doing security, and then probably 3, 4 years after that was when I finally decided to take all that. Like I spent all this time now, over a decade, doing security. I'm going to try, leverage that experience and move forward with it, and actually now actively look for things in the security industry. And through there, I got into the security management, kind of where I am now. So for so long, I was trying to run away from it as something I didn't want to do, and then finally. Probably about 5 years ago now, 4 or 5 years ago now, making that decision to really just kind of lean into it and try to do something with it.
It's an interesting story there. So I want to ask you 2 questions. I'll start with this, though, and then we'll kind of circle back around. If you hadn't gone into security, what do you think you would be doing right now?
Well, when I made the shift, I was teaching. Well, I was teaching 3, 4, 5-year-olds kind of a kindergarten curriculum. I was working in that kind of capacity. I also have a deep love for jazz music and was playing trumpet, and that was something I was looking at doing, and kind of all over the place. But the thing that always kind of hold my passion was the teaching defensive tactics. So I probably would have stuck, and it stuck all the way through. So I probably would be doing something similar. I don't know if it would have manifested itself in the same way. My goal back then was to own a martial arts school and to teach classes, to have kind of an academy, because that was the model that I had in front of me. I was teaching part-time at, teaching Krav Maga classes part-time, or teaching karate classes part-time, and that was kind of the example and what I was looking to do. But so it probably would have been kind of martial arts, self-defense oriented, but it would look different than it does now.
Gotcha. So what age did you get into martial arts?
started when I was 14, high school, taking a Taekwondo class, and that was it. And I grew up watching Bloodsport, Karate Kid, Kickboxer, all kind of like Van Damme, Bruce Lee, were like all my heroes back then. And my dad was, he took Kung Fu, and he would always tell me his old Kung Fu stories, and it was just like a whole martial arts infatuation as I grew up. And then, so finally in grade 9, I convinced him to sign me up for Taekwondo, and then just fell in love with it.
Awesome. And you were doing Taekwondo pretty much straight through primary school, high school?
No, I did Taekwondo in high school. I did it for about 2.5 years, I'd say, 2.5, 3 years. I had a couple years break, and then when I went away to on my third year of college is when I started in Krav Maga, and that became my obsession. And actually, I was in Bible college at the time. I was in my third year of a 4-year degree, found Krav Maga, fell head over heels in love with kind of that self-defense world, and basically looked at myself and said, okay, I could take the next year, and it's probably about 20 grand when you count tuition and living expenses and everything at the time, and can invest that in that degree that I put 3 years into, or I can take that and put it into this new direction I want to go. And so I opted for that. So I just dropped everything and pursued teaching self-defense full-time, and made the right choice, because here I am.
Yeah, I like that quite a bit. I actually just did a video on YouTube where I mentioned that if you got the choice between going to college doing the 9 to 5 traditional route or doing something kind of extreme and unknown, always choose your passion. Because you could be sitting there doing your office job and be fucking miserable, or you could be out there teaching self-defense, living your passion. So it's a good choice, man.
It's tough to look at yourself sometimes when you come to those crossroads. You have to make those choices, because I describe it sometimes that I think I'm probably a little bit attracted to risk, right? So like to drop everything, like a monkey swinging from one vine to the other. I don't need to have that other vine in my hand before I let go of the one I'm currently on. I just trust I'm going to land all right. But if you're a monkey with like a family of monkeys on your back, you're responsible for more than just yourself now. So if you don't catch that other vine, you're not the only one that's going to suffer.
Yeah.
So I'm not saying don't take that step, but you have to find a way that you can do it, and not hurt those around you if it does go south, because you have to be prepared for that eventuality.
Wise words from a wise man. Now, did you say that you were in Bible school?
Yeah. In high school, I became a Christian, and my personality and attitude is like I like to do everything I do 100%, kind of to an extreme. I obsess a little bit with things, and so that was true for that as well. And went to Bible school because I was pursuing kind of a full-time evangelistic missionary kind of path, and it was after that I took a break. Well, that's a can of worms. Those are the strange days. That's a long time ago.
Hey, it's a cool thing though, to be honest with you. And I was just kind of laughing to myself because I figured, Bible school, the Bible, Israelis, Krav Maga, it really actually kind of ties in quite nicely.
Yeah, comes full circle. Yeah, it was after, it was in my third year of Bible school that I was actually engaged to be married to someone I had met over in China at the time. And in the following year, that relationship essentially fell apart, and I had some time off, and I was pursuing the martial arts, kind of burying myself in that. But after having been separated from it for a while, I started to, entertain friendships with people I wouldn't hang out with before, read books by like Richard Dawkins or Christopher Hitchens, that I wouldn't really have picked up to read before, and really just started to, gain a new perspective on things. And it was probably like a good 2-3 year process where after I kind of had that physical separation from it, the mental separation. But that's basically kind of how it happened. I went kind of militant atheist for a while after that. And then I kind of find myself a little more balanced right now. But, the pendulum's definitely swaying from one side to the other.
Yeah, I'm kind of the same way when it comes to stuff. So I get that. You tend to become a little obsessive and really passionate about things. But I think that's what really drives a person like me. Certainly, I won't speak for you, but it drives me to really learn everything I can about a subject once I start picking it up.
100%. 100%. And now you said that you're a couple years in on your YouTube channel and your Instagram and stuff, building your business and your brand. I found myself like obsessing recently over Instagram, and not really YouTube, but more kind of Instagram as a primary platform of trying to get the information and get the stuff out there. Um, you know, that's been kind of a bit of an obsession as of late. How about you?
Yeah, likewise, man. And to be honest with you, YouTube really kind of seems like it's on its way out a little bit. Instagram seems like the in thing right now. So I'm trying to ride that horse until it dies.
Instagram right now, and actually, the quote unquote marketing experts, fingers in air quotes, marketing experts out there that I've been watching on YouTube, and Gary Vaynerchuk, actually, who I follow considerably, has mentioned that LinkedIn right now is the hot thing because you get way more organic reach on your posts than you would on any of the other platforms, and that may change in the near future. But right now, he says LinkedIn is kind of the hot place to be to get your stuff out there.
Good tip. I just made a note about that.
Nice.
So yeah, it's an interesting world that I've been experiencing, and it's really cool because I get to literally sit down and on my spare time chat with guys like you, guys like freaking Secure Mindset, who I have on my podcast a lot. Just people from all over the world that I would have never met otherwise. But we all kind of come together and are able to share our passion about combatives, martial arts, theory behind all of this stuff, and it really is an exciting time to be living in with the internet and all of that.
We certainly have a lot easier time getting it out there, and there's there's a bit of a saturated market, so it's a real fun challenge actually trying to differentiate yourself from what else is out there. I think the pie is big enough for everybody, but it's you just don't want to get lost in the noise either.
Yeah, I certainly see it that way. I'm glad that you do as well. I know not everybody sees it that way. There are some older heads in the reality-based combatives industry that I know don't want anyone to have a hold of their cake, so to speak. But it is an interesting field to try to explore and sink your teeth into. Now,
yeah, there's like how many billion people on the planet right now, and the internet is virtually everywhere. That's a tool that you can use, man. And if you're worried about someone else coming in and taking from people from you, then I guess you just don't provide enough value to them, right?
Yeah.
If you're providing enough value to them, then they'll stay.
So you've been with Krav for a long time now. You mentioned also that you had done some Muay Thai, some boxing. Is there anything else that you had been into as well besides from the Krav?
Yeah, so probably two years into Krav Maga, and I was bouncing at the time as well. I felt like outside of like breaking up drunken fights, I hadn't been in a real serious fight, and I felt like a bit of a fraud as a self-defense instructor who hadn't been in any altercations. I'm like, what am I teaching here? Certainly not from experience. So I got into Muay Thai with the full intent of getting into. In Southern Ontario here, we have a really great amateur Muay Thai circuit.
Cool.
And so I thought I'm going to train in Muay Thai and I'm going to go actually have fights because it's what better way to learn and to kind of cut my teeth. And I had two fights. The first one got knocked out in the first round against a much tougher, more experienced opponent. I was his 20th fight. He was my first, and he was undefeated in the 19 prior. And I learned my lesson. But the most important lesson I learned at that one is that I wasn't afraid to fight, which was nice. And then after a 90-day medical suspension because of the concussion, I went and fought again in October of that same year, 2007, and won a split decision actually. From there, I was still doing the Krav Maga, and then Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, no real consistent Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu practice, more consistent with the striking, with the Muay Thai, and boxing as well. Doing all that concurrently, prepping for the fights. Trained here and there in various forms of Bujinkan, so the ninjutsu stuff, kind of a modernized version, the old version with different instructors, but it's all kind of centered around the same forms of movement. And then in 2009, 2010, I got into Irish stick fighting. Wow. And fought in a national fight in 2011 in Irish stick fighting, and that was a lot of fun. And since then, the focus has been more combative training and the use of force training.
Can you go into for us a little bit about what exactly is Irish stick fighting and how does one fight in that?
Right. So Irish stick fighting was. I'm gonna kind of give you sweeping statements here. I don't have a lot of the details memorized, but it's basically when weapons and stuff were outlawed in Ireland, and they still wanted to train to protect themselves. They'd have walking sticks, so a shillelagh. So it's basically like anywhere from 36 to 40 inches. We'd say a stick. That would be. It's a two-handed fighting system, and it's the footwork and the movement is taken from boxing, from pugilism, right? So they'd have a boxing stance. They'd have a stick in tight, their elbows in, pulled in tight, horizontally, holding it at shoulder width, more or less. And then they'd use, and so the idea is it's deceptive. You have deceptive reach with that stick, right? But it looks like you can't reach. So it's a real in close quarters fighting system, but using a lot of leverage of body mechanics on that. When you have two hands on the stick, but you have great reach when you go single hand on the stick. Came over to Canada via the Doyle family. My instructor was Glenn Doyle. He's out in Milton, Ontario. And, there's kind of a small faction there. And he ran, all his Irish stick fighting classes all the time. Just, I guess, his traditional wiki classes. He had his own academy. And then he had instructor certification courses as well. So I went to one of those. And then from there, he started that sport organization. There wasn't really a sport forum for it, so he created a sport forum for it and held that first tournament, which I had the luxury of, or had the pleasure rather, of fighting in.
Very cool, very cool. Now, what about the ninjutsu? This is something I've been always just very fascinated with. I don't have a lot of experience with it myself. Now, as far as somebody who's RBC instructor, reality-based combatives instructor, what is your honest thought about ninjutsu? Good, no good, decent?
You have to be able to apply the concepts and take them out of the rigid form they put them in, like particular stances, particular way of striking, like holding your knuckles in a certain way and striking with this knuckle, and there's nerve point. Like there's you don't have to throw the baby out with the bathwater. I mean, even in any sort of traditional martial art, it might not be structured in the way that you'd use practically, but you can extract certain value out of it. You can extract principles and concepts, and I think when it comes to ninjutsu, I would say even it isn't really the art itself. It depends on the instructor too, and how they apply it and how they present it. Like I've had a couple different instructors, and my use of force instructor. He works at Federal Corrections. His background is Bujinkan as well, but the way he teaches, the way he applies it, is because of his experience. So, not all instructors I think are created equal, and you can have ninjutsu instructor number 1 and ninjutsu instructor number 2, and you could be learning radically different versions.
Yeah, and I think this is a theme that I hear you keep bringing up is experience, and that's such an important thing when it comes to a combatives instructor is. What relevant experience does he have to draw on to teach his students with? And something I find fascinating is your experience doing doorman work and bouncing. Do you think that lended quite a good bit of experience for what you're doing now with Kennedy Tactical?
Yeah, so there's been two, in terms of security, in terms of learning human behavior, how to interface with people, how to deal with the public, working door security and working in hospital security. Those are the two fields I think offer the most experience, the most learning opportunities. The absolute best jobs you can have if you want to get good at dealing with people is in door work, in nightclub security, or in hospital security. That's what I find. Yeah, very, very educational. I'd put my experience on door, my experience in hospital above any certification I have in terms of learning information and being taught. Experience I think is the greatest teacher, and the greatest experience I've had has been on door in hospital.
Yeah, and you mentioned, which is interesting too, is that it's interfacing with people, it's dealing with people, it's de-escalation, and it's not so much grabbing the guy and putting him in a freaking lock that's going to solve the situation. That's something that a lot of combatives instructors out there don't really emphasize so much. So that does kind of make you, in my eyes at least, kind of unique. Do you typically talk about that a lot when you're teaching your students, combatives lessons?
Yeah, so a lot of it depends on how much time I have them for, right? If it's a one-off seminar for 4 hours, how much can I teach them? If I have them, if it's an instructor course, or it basically boils down to how much time I have them for. And if I only have a short amount of time with them, I do focus on that asocial, excuse me, asymmetrical attack,
Yeah.
that predatory attack, and the physical skills and kind of that mindset needed to drive through, and I keep it very, very simple. I do like to explain, especially when I'm working with people such as bouncers, people who work in nightclub security, that to use their social skills. Like a lot of the encounters, fights, whatever that happen in clubs, it's a socially violent scenario, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's for status within the group. Rory Miller talks a lot about this in his book, Meditations of Violence, Facing Violence. And social skills and the team that you have around you can de-escalate that, or can resolve that before it gets physical, right? You're right. A lot of combatives instructors don't necessarily focus on that. It's super important. In Canada here, we actually have a duty to retreat, right? So if you can get away, you have to, right? You can't stay and just, the combatives you have can't be the only tool in your toolbox, right? You have to have some social skills, to deal with a scenario before it gets there. I was talking about Rory. He has a quote that I really like. It said, "It's better to avoid than to de-escalate. Better to run than to avoid. Better to avoid than to run. Better to run than to de-escalate. Better to de-escalate than to fight. And better to fight than to die." And that's kind of the roadmap I try to use to teach.
I like that. I have always found that, growing up doing martial arts and all of that there is a certain confidence that you can feel and also kind of just see in somebody's demeanor. When you look at a guy, you can kind of quickly, if you're astute, see, okay, this guy knows how to handle himself. I might not want to tussle with him or give him too much crap. And then some people don't really have that. Can you give, our audience here any kind of tips as far as how can you better project that kind of calm confidence when you're walking down the street? Maybe you see somebody eyeing you and you kind of know basically what they're thinking. Maybe they're sizing you up or something. Is there anything that you can kind of just off the cuff give us that would help somebody in that non-physical confrontation, before the physical confrontation, to avoid that situation?
Yeah, well, let's use two examples, right? So, one, you're out with your friends, and it's the guy at the bar that's eyeing you from across the bar. And there's two, you're on your own, you're walking down some street somewhere, and you feel you're being followed. Okay, it's two different scenarios entirely. Okay. One of them, even just leaving the bar, or letting somebody know, or whatever the case is. Like in a socially violent scenario, this person is they want like a status over you. It's kind of their show, right? And that's why they're going to start something when there's a bunch of people around. So you can just give them the status they want. You don't have to defend your ego at all. But when we're dealing with that the attack outside, that kind of isolated, they got you alone, they're following you, that kind of thing, you want them to know that you want them to know that you were going to be trouble for them, right? That predator's looking for that, just like a lion in the wild, right? They're looking for the isolated, that sick, the small one, the one that's separated from the pack. That's what they're going to attack. So they want to go for an easy meal. So you just got to let them know you're not going to be easy meal. Yes, the way you carry yourself, having your shoulders back, having your eyes looking around, not being distracted, by the way, like looking into my phone or messaging someone or having my earphones on listening to music, shows that I might be distracted, and that could be something that can make me a target as well. If you do get selected, making sure that if you do have to confront the person, you're being assertive and you're not engaging in like victim language, like help me, or when I teach women's classes, women's self-defense specifically, I ask how many people have been told to like yell fire when someone's attacking them because they've heard that yell rape, no one's going to come to listen to them or no one's going to come help them. Yell fire instead. But you yell fire, no one's going to come anyways either. Nobody cares. No one wants to get involved. Maybe you hear it when there's a car alarm going off outside your house for 20 minutes. Probably you're not even bothered to look because you don't care. So I like to tell them to look at that person and to um, basically, in no uncertain terms, make it known that there's going to be trouble if you come mess with them, and that can look different for everyone else. When I demonstrate examples, I tell the person, you fucking get away from me, or I'll fucking rip your head off, or whatever it is you got to yell to let them know that they should leave you alone. I shared a story on Instagram actually the other day about this. I was walking home from work. It was 3:30 in the morning in downtown Toronto, and a person walking the other direction, coming towards me on the sidewalk, just set a red flag off. My intuition told me this guy was shady as hell, and as we passed, he got about 6 or 8 meters behind me, and because I already kind of picked him up as someone that I felt was a little bit shifty, I was just keeping my peripheral on him while he passed me. He gets 6, 8 meters behind me. He turns around and he starts walking in the same direction as me, and I'm looking at the windows on the shops to my left where I'm walking down, and I see that he's gaining on me, and maybe he just decided to turn and walk for a completely other reason, but I just felt it was pertinent at that moment to stop and make a stand, because there's no one else on the street, just me, and then he turns and follows me. So I turn around and I point at him and I yelled something in his face, like, I think I asked him, "Are you fucking following me?" And he was surprised back, said no, and I said, "You better not be," right? And I let him walk past me, and then he turned off to the side, and it never became an issue after that. And maybe he wasn't even coming after me, but I stopped. If he was coming after me, I stopped to let him know right then and there that he's going to have a problem, because I see him, and I'm not going to be an easy target for him. And if that's the situation you feel you're in, that's something you should be willing to do. Not be afraid to be rude, not be afraid to be seen as stupid or as crazy or as overreactive, because you never know, right? You're probably never going to see this person again. Who cares what they think about you? Who cares what the people around that see you think about you? You avoided a potential bad scenario.
Yeah, absolutely. And it is better to be thought of as a little bit wacky or crazy than to have something unfortunate happen and then there you are dealing with it. Now, let me ask you this. You're in this situation, 3 a.m., nobody else is around. Nobody's there to hear you scream, so to speak. Not you, but whoever, whoever.
Right.
Let's just say it goes down. They start coming at you at a rapid pace. Maybe even they shove you a little bit or they put their hand on your throat. How do you proceed from there? Do you try to, gain control, or do you just go all out savage until they're down and then kick them while they're down? How do you personally suggest somebody proceeds from there?
Well, the way I present it is, you don't know their intent for you. At that time, 3:30 in the morning, the guy felt like, I can assume that it probably has pretty bad intent, right? I don't know if he wants to kill me or not. So my goal always in self-protection, my goal in self-defense is to get away safely. So I need to create a window of opportunity for myself to get away safely. How am I going to do that? I have to stop the attack. So I have to basically neutralize that threat in that moment. So I have to do enough to this person, okay, to stop him from attacking me, to earn myself that opportunity to leave. But I can't fool around with trying to gain control of him, because, hey, he could have a weapon, he could be strong, like, for so many other reasons, right? The longer I take with this person, the more risk of injury to myself is, so I have to be fast. So I like to look at gross motor-oriented striking, okay, things that I can do with no coordination, because I have the adrenaline and stress just kind of ramping me up. And I look at how I'm going to target. What are the things I'm trying to do? And I try to teach a very, very simple approach. I teach people how to do several different strikes. I just give them 4 basic tools: gross motor stuff like a palm, a hammer, fist, knee, and elbow, things they could do really easily. And I try to educate them on what they're trying to accomplish, a job that they're trying to stay focused on, which is attack one of 4 things: the airway. So I shortened it down to ABs and CDs to make it easier for people to remember. Attacking the airway, so whether it be like crushing a throat or choking is a little bit more of a skill that you have to learn, but constricting airways, so attacking the airflow. So I can't breathe, I can't attack you. Okay. blood flow. So whether it be through, again, you can restrict, you could do like a blood choke or something, but I'm thinking more in terms of blood loss. So weaponizing my environment. Do I have a pen or a pencil or something sharp that I can use to put into this person's body to make them bleed out? 3 is the CNS, so it's central nervous system injury by usually striking the spine or the skull. Okay, so rattling that brain cage, either by striking it or hitting them into something. Okay, back of the head is a good target for that. And then finally, the D, which is destruction, so limb destruction. So if I have an opportunity to break something, break an elbow or break a knee, if I could find a way to do that. When I have maybe like 1 hour or 2 hours with them, I just really focus on the striking. A couple of strikes to basically back the head or the head or to the neck, okay, because that is the best return on investment for a short period of time to train. But basically in that moment, you're going to feel that fear. You're going to feel your life threatened, right? So I want to focus on, I want to put all that fear aside. I recognize that it's happening, but I want to focus on action, which is the job I need to do, the ABCD. Okay, what can I hurt? What can I hurt it with is the only question I'm going to be asking myself in that moment until I find that I can make my safe escape, and then I'm out of there. That's all I'm trying to do. When he's down, I'm not going to kick him while he's down, because unless he's getting back up, right? And things change too. Do I have my son or daughter with me? Am I alone? Do I, context is gonna determine that. But all I'm trying to do ultimately is get myself and whoever in that scenario I'm in care of, getting us the opportunity to escape safely. And when I've done enough damage, the more damage I cause, the longer that window of opportunity remains open. Okay, when I've done enough damage to get through that window, that's when I leave. And it's going to be different every time. It's going to be up to the person. There's no real formulaic answer for it.
I like that, and I've always liked that about the Krav Maga concept, as far as injure him to the capacity that you can to make your escape. That was something I've always found interesting. Whereas the whole MMA concept would be you punch him and ground him, pound him, and all of that type of stuff. Now, I am not big on shit talking, one martial art versus the other, because that's a concept, that's a conversation we could have like for 3 nights solid. But what is your personal opinion on MMA versus Krav Maga? Do you think that one is superior? Give us kind of your personal concept on this, if you don't mind.
Yeah, sure. So I love Krav Maga for the mindset. Absolutely. I love Krav Maga because ideally it takes things and teaches simple concepts. But I had an interesting experience when I was training in Muay Thai. We had some Muay Thai guys from my gym. I was teaching Krav Maga part-time, and I was training in Muay Thai at the same time at another gym. So we had some of the guys I was training with come to the Krav Maga school to spar with some of the Krav Maga students during like a sparring class. And the Muay Thai students were talking like 6 months to a year into Muay Thai. Some of them already with 2-3 fights under the belt. And then the Krav Maga class, we're talking people anywhere from 3 to 6 years of training, right? And they were getting absolutely destroyed by the Muay Thai students. And I was like, this is really, really, really interesting. And, I find that the difference in the training between as a system, and I can't judge one or the other, but in Muay Thai, they're training against people that are using force against them. In Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu or in boxing or in wrestling, you're fighting against people, yes, stylistically, specifically in a certain way, according to a certain rule set, but you're fighting against somebody that's trying to not cooperate and apply that towards you. In a lot of Krav Maga classes, you're practicing the techniques and your partners are cooperating to allow you to learn. But again, depending on the instructor, right, they might not be allowing you to use that and force against somebody else. Like you can't have like eye gouging and groin kicking competitions, right? You can't have like throat crushing competitions because it's fatal, and that's why those strikes are not allowed in MMA. I also think that the athleticism required for mixed martial arts is going to be beneficial. Having been in another number of altercations, I can say that conditioning and your cardiovascular endurance is absolutely paramount. Because if you try to put our eggs in that one basket of I'm going to hit that throat, I'm going to kick him in the groin, and gouge his eye, and it doesn't work out for you, you're going to be really, really tired, and you're going to need that. You're going to need every ounce of energy you have. So I would say that MMA also lends itself towards that. I think the more tools you have, the better ultimately. So I don't know if I can say one is better than the other, but I guess I could. If I was to tell somebody if they have a certain amount of money to spend on invest on a gym membership where they're going to go learn one or the other, I'd probably have them learn some MMA for most things, where Krav Maga might excels in terms of dealing with a gun or a knife or something. But I think I'd probably start the time with MMA, learning how to get good at violence from in close quarters. With people that are not cooperating with you, right? You learn really quick about how to impose your will on somebody when they're not helping you.
Yeah, spoken like a true man who understands the martial concepts there, and I think it's really admirable that from your Muay Thai experience and everything that you come and say, yeah, this is actually what I think. With that being said, it really isn't a fair kind of matchup when you put a strict Krav guy versus a strict MMA guy, because the Krav guy is learning a lot about attack the groin, attack the eyes, attack the throat, and for him not to be able to utilize that in a controlled sparring match is it's taking away half of his toolbox. But at the same time,
well, they both fall under martial arts too. I think it is a little bit of apples and oranges because the whole goal for each of them is different, right? One is trying to train you to be a fighter, and one is trying to train you to get away, and it's totally two different things.
Yeah. So, where are you going from here? I mean, you've been really hitting it hard with getting yourself from the point where you were doing Taekwondo in high school, and then Krav Maga. You realized that you wanted a little bit more experience and everything, which I applaud. Security, doorman work. You really took a very advanced understanding of dealing with people. Then you even, MMA, boxing, Muay Thai. You've really run the gambit as far as kind of martial arts goes, not even including your security, executive protection security experience here. Now, where does all of this go from here? I mean, Kennedy Tactical Concepts is growing, I'm assuming. Do you have plans to expand on this? Where do you want to go from here?
Yeah, so essentially, there's a few irons in the fire, and I'm really lucky and fortunate to be a part of a really good community in my area. So, a couple of things we have going. One of them is I like to teach basic self-protection concepts, stuff that works. Well, nothing's guaranteed 100% of the time, but stuff that is more likely to work for people because it's based on smart principles, based on experience. I like to provide basic information for groups. So I go into companies sometimes to run stuff for their staff. Sometimes there's social groups that have me come in to do something for them. A lot of women's self-defense. I do high school self-defense, so I go and teach grade 9s, boys and girls alike, to deal with different kinds of attacks using just a very, very simple approach. Beyond that, I do security use of force training, so everything from escort controls to takedowns to cuffing, batons, stuff like that for security teams, as well as try to provide, again, a little bit more of an understanding as to the whys of violence as well, kind of help people cover that or conquer that in the training, right? So they have a better understanding of it, right? Because if you objectify your demons, you rob them of their power. There's a jazz musician, his name is Kenny Werner, he's a piano player, and he said, nothing is difficult, just unfamiliar. And when you take the topic of violence, it's such a scary thing for some, but if you can familiarize them with it and give them kind of the logic behind it, they become a lot less afraid. They know it because they know what they're dealing with. So I like to do that as well. Beyond that, we have do a lot of women's self-defense classes, and in line with the anti-trafficking, we have a workshop coming up on March 14th. And when I say we, I mean myself, and I partner with another person, Boris Milinkovic of True North Tradecraft, whose specialty is in counter custody. So we do a full day. It's going to be a 6-hour day. Half the day you're learning you're learning combatives, so close quarters violence stuff. Okay, so how to strike, how to position yourself, how to open that window of opportunity for yourself. And then if because nothing is 100% guaranteed. What if your situational awareness was off? What if you weren't able to read that person's behavior? What if you weren't able to win that fight when it was on, and now you are duct taped, you are handcuffed, you are tied to some sort of cordage or something like this, zip ties maybe? What if you're in that kind of situation? How would you affect your own escape? So Boris's specialty is in that counter custody. So we kind of give that whole approach from start to finish of being situationally aware, learning how to read behavior, dealing with the physical combatives if it goes hands-on, and then even if that fails, how to get yourself out after the fact, right? Basically how to fight it every step of the way.
So basically, straight up CIA training for civilians.
Yeah. Well, actually, more on that note, we have in October, it'll be our second Gray Man conference. So in October, the past October, we had gotten together 6 experts in their field in counter custody, combatives, in edge weapon management, in tactical communication, social engineering, things like this. We brought them all together for one major security conference for 2.5 days of just solid top level professional training from some of the top we have in Canada, barring none, and we're doing that again in October coming up. So we have a former CSIS. CSIS is you're in the States, correct?
Yes, correct.
So CSIS is like your CIA. Like
okay.
In the US you have your 3-letter organizations. In Canada we're big on 4 letters. So CSIS is our version of the CIA. So he worked with them as a spy for about 8 years, and he does consulting now. So he does instruction on tactical communications, social engineering and stuff. We have a professional MMA fighter who is also he's one of Canada's top lightweights. He's also a tactical law enforcement officer. He works in corrections. He comes and does close quarters edge weapon management, or that's what he taught at the last workshop. We have a federal law enforcement trainer, use of force trainer for law enforcement, and he came to do single stick tactics. He runs Becuse Tactics Canada. He's part of Jared Bohangi's group, the Becuse Tertia Tactics, but he runs the Canadian faction. We have Ace Johnson from Delta to Alpha out in Edmonton, and he's dealing with he travels a lot to kind of non-permissive environments. And so his expertise that he brought to the table was how to procure and manufacture basically dollar store EDC for yourself when you're in a foreign country, stuff that you can defend yourself when you can't carry around a knife, you can't be carrying around a gun. How can I go into the local hardware store, grocery store, and come out basically armed? And he really focused on armed being more of a mindset than the tools you carry on yourself. Just a wealth of experience coming to that conference. I don't think I'm missing anybody. I presented the close quarters combat toolbox, and Boris again did that counter custody. So we're looking forward to this year, and that's kind of our big push for this year is that conference. I'm trying also slowly and surely working on a book, just kind of to deal with that combative mindset as well. So it's really been hard to get my thoughts down on paper and organize into book format, but I'm really excited to get that done and get that out there.
I'll tell you, TJ, it's always hardest to really put it all down on paper and organize it and get all of this information that's floating around in your head to kind of cooperate. So
no doubt.
The Gray Man Conference, dude, I gotta tell you, bro, that sounds fucking cool. I might actually see if I can get out for that myself. When is it scheduled for? Do you have it scheduled yet?
Yeah, we have it scheduled. It's October 23 to 25. We have early bird pricing right now available at greymansecurity.com. Now, we spell Greyman a bit different up here, GREYMANSECURITY, greymansecurity.com.
Okay.
And there's actually, the venue we have here is really close to a nice hotel that's literally a 5-minute walk door to door. And we have a deal worked out with them, so we're going to have to reinstate that soon with them. Same hotel we had last year, but you get a bit of a discount on our room there, which is really nice.
Great.
But we had actually a couple of Americans come up. We had one from Virginia, I believe, and one from Alabama that came up. We had people from all over Canada, and really you guys in the States have a really good network of people that and a really good training opportunities. But in Canada, we don't have anything like that. So Greyman was kind of our way of trying to start that here, where we take professionals from various parts of the industry to come in and present a complementary skill set that you can come kind of a buffet, a one-stop shop, if you will, where you can come and learn a bunch of different skills that can be applicable both for personal protection if you're just a concerned civilian, or if you're in the security or law enforcement industry, something that you can actually take to the job and use it. And all of the instructors that we've been talking about experience over the podcast here, all of the instructors have real world, serious experience in their respective areas. So it just, it's sometimes it's hard to take a moment, look back, and be proud of something, because you're always just trying to keep your head down and work and work on it to make it better. But I'm proud of that Great Man Conference, and I'm really excited for this one coming up.
I'm starting to get excited about it too, to be honest with you, man. And yeah, I'll definitely be in contact with you about that. And we'll see if we can maybe even get a couple of guys from the States to come up and see what that's all about. I know you Canadians, man, like, you're such nice people, but you guys like to fight, and I've always admired that.
Yeah, we have. We're. I find that funny traveling all over. It's interesting. Being a Canadian is more of a big deal in the States. People find out you're Canadian, they're more jazzed about it than anywhere else that I've been to in the world. I find that really, really funny.
Yeah, we like you guys here in the States. You guys are good people.
You guys are all right too. We count you our brothers and our sisters,
Yeah, that's it, man. I mean, we may have our little petty differences, but we're brothers when it comes down to it.
100%.
So, TJ, I thank you for coming on, man.
I really appreciate the opportunity to come on and share. Any time, it's an honor, a privilege, and it's a pleasure.
So I always ask guys at the end of the podcast, when we've had a good podcast, if they'd mind coming back on as kind of a subject matter expert. If anything ever happens, in the world news section or anything that I might think that you have good expertise, would you mind if I get in touch with you and have you back on at some point?
Yeah, reach out anytime. Always available. And again, I really appreciate the opportunity to come on and share. So thank you for having me on your platform there.
It's been my pleasure, man. Now, how can guys get in touch with you, both inside and outside of Canada, if they want to either come train or just get more information about what you're doing out there?
Sure. So my main hub is just the website itself. It's kennedytactical.ca. So KENNEDYTACTICAL.ca. This is the Canadian version of .com. And right from the homepage there, you can get all my social media. I have a YouTube, a Twitter, and an Instagram. Not on Facebook. And then you can also go to I have a podcast as well. Maybe you'd like to come be a guest on that podcast at some point.
Yeah, I'd be honored, dude, for sure. And for our viewers, I really want to encourage you guys, check out TJ's Instagram. I was following it the other day, actually watching that one story that you were saying about 3 a.m., in the middle of the city and everything, and you've got some great stuff on there. So, anyone who's interested in getting some more good tactical information on their Insta feed, definitely go and check out Kennedy Tactical Concepts.
Appreciate that. One more thing, if there's someone out there that does want to train or get a hold of some of these ideas, or they want to come to a Gray Man conference or something, but maybe they're not able to for various reasons, I do have an online training center as well. So we do have 3 tiers of membership for that. A self-defense tier, which is the basic tier. It's only $5 a month, where you get a video every single week on self-defense. For a little bit more, you can also get some security training. Beyond that, we have guest instructors on every month as well. We've had counter custody, so we learned how to get out of some restraints. We had combat medical applications, so how to deal with lacerations, penetrating trauma, how to work chest seals, tourniquets, stuff like that. We're moving into March into weapons familiarization. So here in Canada, the AR-15 is big in the news. A lot in America too, I'm sure. But there's a lot of misunderstanding about firearms here in Canada. So we're doing some weapons familiarization with the three major platforms: your pistol, shotgun, rifle. We have edge weapons management coming up with that gray man instructor I mentioned, who's the correctional officer, as well as MMA fighter. So a lot of great content there, and I try to make it really, really affordable for people. So it's something to check out, and you can get to that through the homepage at kennedytactical.ca as well.
kennedytactical.ca. Good
Yes, sir.
stuff, man. All right, well, I appreciate again you coming on, and for all of the Gutter Fighting Secrets viewers out there, guys, I hope you enjoyed, and we will catch you, or I will catch you in the next upcoming podcast. Until next time, guys, please remember that you are your first and last line of defense, and I'll catch you next time. Cheers, Mother Flowers.